Hello, everybody. I'm looking at my book because I talked to you yesterday a little bit about beauty, and not very much. I'm going to talk about beauty from time to time. And because of that, I put it in at the very back of the book. It's almost on the last page. It says beauty. And that's partly for people who read the last page first. There are a lot of people, who read the very last page of any book first to tell whether they're going to like it or not. And for those people, I put beauty at the back. But that's only so I can keep on referring to it from time to time. It's one of those things which is always troubling people about art. I mean, one of the things that they're always saying is, why isn't it beautiful? Or they expect to make a judgment about it on the grounds of it being beautiful or not beautiful. And very seldom, of course, do they make any kind of real examination of what beautiful means. For a lot of people, it sounds like an easy thing. Something which is pleasant, yes. Something which is maybe colorful. Something which they're familiar with. All kinds of things around the word beauty most people don't look at too sharply and don't try to understand maybe too well. What I told you yesterday, I shall tell you again and again and again, that beauty is not the prime thing in a work of art. It isn't the first thing that the artist thinks of, or it very seldom is. It may be, but it isn't nearly so apt to be as something else, in fact, as a great many other things. And I showed you, because we're fortunate enough to have now examples of the very earliest, the very first works of man, the first works of art. I showed you yesterday a bison, and maybe we better look at it again, for those who didn't see it or don't remember it. This, you might say, is beautiful. It is beautiful. I would agree with you. But it almost certainly, I think, though it's hazardous to say anything about people who lived as much as 25,000 years ago, it's hazardous to say what they thought and what they did. I think we can be pretty sure that the beauty of this animal, or the beauty of this painting, because it is a painting, it's a painting on a wall in colors mixed with animal fat. Its beauty was not the reason for its creation. Let's look at the next one, too, which is also from the same time and the same place in Spain. Now, in both of those, you might feel, but here is a beautiful work of art. I'm excited by and pleased by the line of the back of the bull, a line of the feeling of running or motion in it, and all of the things which I enjoy about the tonalities or shading of color from one part to the other of the animal. All these things are beautiful. And they may be. But this is not why they were made, I'm pretty sure. And I think that I can prove that to you when I tell you that they are extremely difficult to see. If you make something beautiful, you almost certainly would put it where you could see it, wouldn't you? They put these paintings in the farthest reaches of the darkest caves. It was difficult to get to them at the time. It's very difficult to get to them now, except where they have been opened out and made into a sort of tourist attraction, which is in some instances true. But they are still far back in the earth, through long passages, passages which themselves are not apt to be decorated. Only the distant rooms were decorated. And what can that mean? We can tell another thing. We can tell that they were never lighted. There's no sign of smoke on the ceiling. And even in the painting of them must have been a very rapid kind of thing. Because, again, there's no sign of the thing being carbonated with smoke. They must have been painted rapidly in a bright light, in the light from an oil lantern, which probably was a shell with fat on it and a wick in it, animal fat on it, a wick in it, that would last long enough and make enough light for them to see. But then darkness again. And not lived around, not looked at as beautiful things, as something else, and we don't know what. But surely you can admire the skill which they show. You may not admire them as beauty. I think you will. I want to show you one now that you will not, I think, find very beautiful, which is also from a very early time. These are sculptures, two pieces of sculpture that may be as much as 75,000 years old. They may be only 50,000, you see, positively new, recent things. I think that you would have difficulty finding the one on the right beautiful. It was almost certainly not made as a beautiful object. What were they made for? Probably something to do with the desire to continue and to strengthen the human race through magic, through religion. It's hard to say. But one of the things which I think you should consider is, where did they learn to do this? And in a way, maybe that will give you an idea of how it is possible to learn something about drawing. Those of you who want so much to know how to draw, how did they learn? I think the way that they learned is the way that is the best imaginable way to learn. One is they could see. They were alert and sharp-eyed, and if they weren't, you know what happened to them? They died. They lived in a world which was sufficiently aggressive. They had to hunt these animals which were much bigger and fiercer than they. And they had to know those animals completely. They had to know them in a way that maybe you don't have to know anything. Because not to know meant death right away. And if you did know them and did anticipate their movements and anticipate what they were, where they would graze and where they would live, in a way, if you lived inside of those animals, then you survived. And what did you do then? You ate them. And I think that this amount of knowledge of something, and in a way this amount of devotion to it, is the single most valuable thing that anyone could possibly have who wanted to learn to draw or to paint. I think this not only because of these cave paintings, but because of practically everything else in the history of art, has sprung from knowledge, deep, deep knowledge, and also a kind of adoration or love, a knowledge so great that it moves into that. And I think that this kind of intimacy which the cave people had, and also this kind of worship, made them able to see this thing and to set it down. If you want to learn to draw, if you want to learn to paint, such a thing as an apple, the better you know that, I believe, the better you will do it. They knew these animals, and they could feel them, touch them, bite into them, and know from the inside out what they were. I think that this gave the kind of force and strength to their painting of these animals that nothing else can give. And of course, I don't recommend that you go around killing and eating people in order to make pictures of people, because this is too hazardous. One can't do that in art schools or over television or anywhere else. But to know the thing, and to know it deeply, results in a kind of sensitivity and skill to the depiction of that thing that nothing else will give. No amount of books on how to draw, no amount of lessons or anything else is ever any substitute for that kind of intimate knowledge. I'll show you another picture also from this very early time, but one that maybe you can see a little bit better, because this is a large detail from a book. Well, here is the head of a bull. Can you draw that well? You could if you lived that life. You could if this thing meant as much to you as it meant to that person. I am fairly sure. Not positive because, as I think I've said before, there's nothing which can guarantee that you can draw as well as this. Nothing. But this kind of knowledge and love will go farther toward it. I'll show you another little horse. These are enormous things. These are the bull that you saw is 17 feet long. Great, huge, overwhelming, great figures. In this hall, which is this cave, which is at Lascaux in France. And I'll show you another that maybe give you some sense of the largeness of this. Here you have two bulls opposed. See this one and this one. And with each bull, horses running. And in the middle, part of a horse, and below that, deer, with great trees of antlers, great pronged antlers. Now, the kind of depth of knowledge that this shows, I think they gained through two things, as I said. One, thorough, deep understanding. Understanding which made them become the bull or become the horse and know where to run and to hide and how to eat. And the other thing, a kind of dependence which may be love, it may be need, but a deep dependence of the person on this thing. This is its food, whether it's its spiritual food or whether it's its actual food. This kind of closeness between the artist and the work makes the work and makes it great. I'll see you tomorrow.